Good evening. This Township of Selwyn Committee of Adjustment meeting of September the 22nd will now come to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available through the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. We are, first of all, going to deal with the appointment of Jeanette Thompson as Secretary Treasurer. That in accordance with Section 44(8) of the Planning Act, the committee hereby appoints Jeanette Thompson as the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. Jeanette, I understand you're with us, and I will now turn this over to you so that you can announce the purpose of the meeting.
Okay, the Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended in order to consider applications for relief from the bylaw 2009-21, which is the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn. The prescribed notices of public meetings were provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of the subject property. As well, the ministries and agencies were circulated by email and fax. The subject properties were posted with a sign advertising the public hearing, and the notices were available on the Township's website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. In order to be notified of a decision of the Township of Selwyn on the minor variance application, a written request must be made to the Township. So the first application that we're hearing tonight is file number A-26-20. The owner of the property is Ingrid Bremer, and the agent is Tyler Jenkins. The applicant is seeking relief in order to permit the construction of a structurally non-permanent deck that would be situated 20 meters from the highway. Relief from the bylaw is required in order to permit the construction because the deck will be closer to the high water mark than 30 meters. As it's defined as structurally non-permanent, it can encroach into the 30-meter setback if the minor variance is successful. So I have completed a review of the application and have noted that it does meet with the 4 tests under the Planning Act, which means that the general intent and purpose of the Township's official plan has been maintained. The general intent and purpose of the Township zoning bylaw has been maintained. The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and the proposed variance is minor in nature. And I do recommend that the committee grant the variance.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeanette. Is the applicant or agent in the audience? Okay, would you like to add anything to what Jeanette has said? All right, so for the record, Ingrid Bremer and Tyler Jenkins are here on behalf of the application. Thank you. I don't show any opposition, but to the Deputy Clerk, is there anyone that has joined us?
None that we are aware of. Nope.
Thank you very much. All right. I will now bring this to the committee. Are there any questions with regards to this application? Seeing none, we will move on to A-2820. But before we do, I just want to let you know that these are consent applications, so we're going to deal with them all, and then at the end we will have a motion to approve them. Okay, thank you. Jeanette, A-2820, please.
This is application file number A-2820. The owner of the property is Nicholas and Vilma Pistilli, and the property address is 1810 Fire Route 12A in the Smith Ward. The applicant is seeking relief from the zoning bylaw in order to permit the construction of a 950 square foot garage or accessory structure that would have a height of 4.26 meters, and it would be situated 3 meters from the front lot line. This particular property has significant topographic challenges. Therefore, the proposed garage is going to be situated closer to the front lot line than what the zoning bylaw requires. The purpose of the front yard setback is to ensure that the function of the road is not compromised. And we have taken a look at the property, and we do believe that given the location of the road and that it is a private road, that it will not adversely impact the function of the road. The property owner will be locating the overhead doors and the garage entrance internal to the site. Therefore, cars won't be parking between the garage and the front lot line. So I've completed a review of the application, and I do believe that the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan has been maintained. As well, the general intent and purpose of the township zoning bylaw has been maintained, and the variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and the proposed variance is minor in nature, and I have recommended that the committee grant the variances.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone that has joined us that is supporting or in opposition to this application?
We have no attendees for this application.
Thank you very much. Seeing that, I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions or comments? Anita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regards to the archaeological assessment, has it been done, or will Curve Lake be requiring it?
Yes, in this instance, an assessment is required, but I'm not entirely sure if it has been completed at this point.
All right. Are there any other questions? We'll move on to A2920. Jeanette, please.
In this application, the property owner is Melissa Packman, and the agent is Holly Richards Conley of Black Point Construction. And the property address is 1002 and 1004 Nichols Boulevard. It's two properties that have been merged. The applicant is seeking relief from the bylaw in order to permit the redevelopment of these two merged lots. And she'll be constructing an approximately 2,700 square foot dwelling, which includes a garage and a sunroom, and 484 square feet of decking. The decking will occur both on the water side and the road side. So relief from the bylaw is required to permit the development, as the development is to occur within 30 meters of the high water mark. The closest point of the existing dwelling is 11.5 meters, and the closest point of this proposed reconstructed dwelling will be 11.6 meters from the high water mark. The deck will be 9.7 meters from the high water mark, but again, is defined as structurally non-permanent, so it can encroach slightly further into the high water mark setback. The septic system has been sited on the roadside, but given the narrowness of the lot, it is also required to have a minor variance. It'll be located at 27 meters from the high water mark. I have completed a review of the application, and I do believe that it meets the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan and the zoning bylaw. The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and the proposed variance is minor in nature. And I have recommended that the variances be granted.
Thank you very much. I understand that on the line is the agent, Holly Richards Conley.
Yes, that's
Is there
correct. I'm
anything you
here.
would like to add?
No, not at this point. I'm just here to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. And I understand too that Doug Packman is here in support. Is there anything you wish to add to what Jeanette has given us? Thank you. Thank you. There is someone who is on the line that is in opposition to this, Tracy and Lorene Tom, correct? Is there anything that you would like to bring to this committee?
Yeah, it's Tracy Thorne. Thank you. Just the location of the septic. It's quite close to the property line, the south property line. And we're have a future development non-planned at this point for our property, and are concerned it'll infringe on the placement of the well. The south neighbor has a holding tank, and our property has no septic or on it at this moment. So as I look at our property, it's very difficult to meet the 15 meters from the water, 15 meters from the proposed septic, and 15 meters from the neighbor's holding tank for well placement.
Would you like to respond to that, please, Holly?
Yes, certainly. So in consultation, I just had a brief email back and forth with Jeanette on this. And it's my understanding that the decision to place a septic, because when we looked at where the septic had to go on the property, this was the only location. So we had to place it as far away from the water as possible, fit the house without the house getting any closer to the water. So the location that was chosen was sort of it was the only place on the lot to go. In regards to its proximity to the lot line, it's meeting the required setbacks to the lot line. The way that the neighbor's lot functions, where their existing house sits, it's approximately 30 feet from the water. So if they ever wanted to develop this lot, their septic would have to go to the rear or roadside of their lot, therefore putting any potential future well on the water side of the dwelling.
Thank you. Are there any other questions with regards to this application?
Just a question about the
Jeanette, is there anything you would like to add?
sorry, the distance from the well, from the waterway, I understand has got to be 15 meters.
I can speak to that. The Ministry of Environment will allow a well closer than 15 meters to the water in order to meet the 15-meter setback from a sewage system.
Okay.
All right, Jeanette, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think Holly covered it. We did have a conversation about it, and the way it works, the septic system, when it is installed, the property owner does have to be cognizant and aware of the existing conditions, and the septic system is placed based on the existing conditions. So when the property owners who are concerned about the placement of their septic system, they would undergo sort of the same review with the health unit. If the health unit had concerns with the placement of the system that is being reviewed tonight, they would have made us aware of that.
All right, thank you very much. I'll now bring this to the committee. Are there any questions, Donna?
Yes, through you. I just want to make sure I understand the concern of the neighbors and the explanation that Jeanette has made. So from what I can understand, it's not really easy to hear, is that they're concerned that when they develop their property, that they will have issues with a septic system and possibly a well. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Correct.
And so, Jeanette, can you make assurances that that will not happen, or do you not, does that have to come from the health unit?
Yeah, so that, to your question, Donna, that is all vetted through the health unit and the Ministry of Environment. That's not something that we have any authority over. So it is located in the best area that those agencies determine.
I just am a little concerned for the neighbors because my family owned a waterfront lot and it was closed in on both sides by neighbors putting septic systems and wells, that it was left so that we could only use a holding tank, which wasn't really appropriate. So I don't know what to think about this. If I wonder if the neighbors have actually talked to the health unit.
This is Tracy. No, I have not talked to the health unit.
Sorry?
He is not.
I
Not.
have not talked to the health unit.
Well,
So
can I,
we
can I,
don't
just-
really know how it's going to impact. I assume it's number 906
Number 998.
or 996. No, is that the one?
10:02. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Tracy,
Madam
what's your
Chair,
number?
The neighbor is 998.
It's too bad that the neighbors didn't make inquiries with the health. But I guess that's not really our concern or problem if
Not,
they haven't.
no, it's not under our purview, Donna.
so Madam Chair, it's Robert, can I?
Are there any
speak
other
to-
questions? We will move on to the next application, A3020. Jeanette?
Yes, just give me a second here. Sorry. Yes, so this is the owner of the property is Dave Robertson, and the address is 234 Woodward Avenue in the Smith Ward.
Hey.
Sorry, so this application, the property owner is seeking relief from the provisions of the bylaw in order to permit the construction of an approximately 580 square foot accessory structure or detached garage. The garage will be situated in the southwest corner of the subject lot and will be situated approximately 1.5 meters from the side and rear lot lines. The applicant is requesting the variance in order to construct the garage, which would provide additional indoor storage room for his household equipment. The increase in lot coverage as that would be created by that garage is what's creating the problem for him. So he's looking for a maximum lot coverage for accessory structures to be increased from 7.5% to 11%. I have completed a review of the application, and I do believe that the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan has been maintained, as well as the general intent and purpose of the township zoning bylaw has been maintained. The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and the variance is minor in nature, and I have recommended that the committee grant the variance.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone that is either in support or in opposition to this application?
We have no one here to speak to this application.
Thank you very much. I'll bring this to committee. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A3120, please.
So this property owner is Steve Bursick, and the address of the property is 64 Darling Drive in the Ennismore Ward. The applicant is requesting an increase in the height of an accessory structure garage to be increased from 4 meters to 4.45 meters, and also for an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 5% to 9.7%. He's asking for this increase in order to permit the construction of an approximately 1,080 square foot garage that will have a height of 4.545 meters, which is about 14.6 feet. He is locating this garage towards the rear of the property, and is also looking for an increase in the lot coverage of accessory structures to 9.7%. The actual part of the accessory coverage percentage that's attributed to the garage is 5.8%, which is pretty close to the 5% of an accessory structure. The other portion of that is due to a deck that is located to the front of the house. I have completed a review of the application, and I do believe that it meets the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw. The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and the proposed variance is minor in nature, and I have recommended that the committee grant the variances.
Thank you, Jeanette. Is there anyone that is in support of this application, Deputy Clerk?
We have no one here to speak in support of the application.
Yes, we do have someone in opposition, Greg Lowe and Mike Cara. Would either of you like to ask questions?
It's Mike Cara. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not necessarily in opposition of the structure or the height of it. My concerns are more in regards to the runoff of water from the overall property, and whether or not, I don't know if it's appropriate to address that at this time, or that is of a different issue.
It is not part of this application. However, I will ask for Jeanette to weigh in here. Jeanette.
Madam Chair, can you hear me? Madam Chair?
Lost her.
Hello, Madam Chair.
Is Rob on the line?
I'm back.
I hear a door. No. So Mr. Lamar.
Sorry, we must have lost Jeanette there. So,
Mhm.
so I am I am familiar with the file. So, and I have actually taken a look. Dr. Lowe actually spoke to Paul, one of my staff, and we're aware of the fact. Sorry, I'm out of breath.
Catch your breath.
Yeah, so I need to exercise more apparently. Yeah, so we're aware of the fact that when there's hard rain events, that the water is getting beyond the existing ditches that are in place. So what we've suggested in this case is that in recognition of that we would impose, or we're asking that the committee impose a condition that the approval would be conditional upon there being a proper grading plan completed. Now, this is a very steep property, and what we'll be looking for, I guess, is some way to ensure that the ditches are constructed in such a way that they will capture any of the runoff that's coming from from the property. There would be, I guess, one potential issue with the fact that, of course, there's a driveway that won't have the protection of a ditch, but we can work with the applicant to address that as well. So I think that's that would be our response, I guess, to the stated concern that's been provided to us by Dr. Lowe and, sorry, Mr. Kara.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Kara and Mr. Lowe, we didn't hear from you, Mr. Lowe. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Now.
So like Mr. Kara, I am not actually in opposition to the project in itself. It is the concerns about the topography of the land and the erosion control. I really do appreciate the consensus that some sort of plan for drainage be presented. I would further add that it would be greatly appreciated if this is something that is certified by an engineer and with specific comment on whether or not a culvert would be applicable or would be needed.
Sorry. Yeah. So in terms of engineering, I think in this particular context, we have the benefit of some work that had been done by the actual owner of the road allowance, Paul O'Reilly, in support of his endeavor initiative some years ago to develop the property and to get the municipality to adopt the road. So there's been some engineering. We understand what the size of the culverts should be if they were to be installed. So we have a pretty good baseline to work from. There's a clear avenue for the water to get from these back lots to the lake as well through an easement. So I'm actually attempting to discuss the broader issue of how to deal with all of those properties with the road owner, Mr. O'Reilly. So yeah, so I'm cognizant of the fact that really the only solution to get the water from the backside of the road to the lake really would involve some improvements to the ditch and the installation of culverts. So.
Thank you.
Sorry, are there any other comments from Mr. Kara?
I don't know that you heard me. I'm not in opposition of the garage being built, but everything that Rob has said, I'm happy to hear it and in full support of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, I will now bring this application to the committee. Donna.
Yes, I'd just like to make it clear that we're adding condition number 4 to this minor variance, that a drainage plan be submitted. I think that's what Mr. Lamar indicated to me that he would put on this file. So I just want to confirm that.
That's our recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A3220, please. Now, have we got Jeanette back?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I can see you again. Okay, this is file number 83220. The property owner is Clayton McKay, and the agent for the application is Holly Richards Conley of Black Point Construction. The property is located at 3105 Cottage Lane in the Smith Ward. The application is seeking relief to allow for the lot coverage of accessory structures to be increased from 5% to 8.6%, and to decrease the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 12.7 meters. And this is in order to construct or to recognize the construction of a deck. The deck is considered structurally non-permanent and therefore by definition can encroach into the 30-meter setback, as well as the actual lot coverage that would be attributed to the deck is 4.2%. And because a deck is something that's pervious in nature and does not represent a significant built form, it does not tend to significantly impact the drainage or aesthetics of a property. So I have recommended that the variances be passed, as I do believe the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw has been maintained. As well, the variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and that the proposed variance is minor in nature. We have received comments from a neighboring property owner who has indicated his concerns and objections to the application. His concerns really lie around the fact that the deck has been constructed prior or without the benefit of a permit. And so his concerns is that we're setting an example to other property owners and developers or builders that we allow those types of things to occur. But this property owner has to go through the process of getting a building permit. And in order to get the building permit, he did have to go through the variance process, and he needs to obtain this variance. So yes, he did build without a permit, but he has to go through the process just like anybody else.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone that is here in support of the application?
We have the agent here in attendance.
All right, Holly, do you have anything you'd like to add to this, to the comments?
Just a small minor comment. We initially did a variance on this property to rebuild the house and would have absolutely included the deck in that variance if the owner had thought that it was required. The way that this deck is built is it's sort of, he thought it would be considered landscaping because it's not attached to the house like a normal deck. It's sort of sitting on like a concrete landscaped flower box type thing. And so it wasn't until I believe it was possibly Paul was there for an inspection, sort of said, I don't think this is actually kosher. You will have to review it with Jeanette. So it was upon review with Jeanette that we realized that this was indeed going to be required to go to variance. So if we'd have known this was, we would have included it with the original variance.
Okay, thank you. And there is no one in opposition? And could we please have their name and address? Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I'll bring this to the committee then. Are there any questions? Anita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for Jeanette, I guess. Had they gone through the proper channels instead of doing cart before the horse, whatever, or the understanding that it was not a landscape feature, would the minor variance have been recommended for approval prior to?
Yes, so when I look at these applications, I have to look at them as if the structure is not there. So I am reviewing it as if it doesn't exist. And yes, it does meet with the way our bylaw is worded. It does meet with the intent of it. So I would have recommended it back in the original variant.
That was a yes. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve these applications before us this evening. Donna Valentine, seconded by Anita Locke. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And we don't have any deferred matters or correspondence. The minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting of August the 11th. Andy Mitchell moving, Donna Valentine seconding. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And a motion to adjourn, please. Donna Valentine, Andy Mitchell. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And our council meeting will begin
in about 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
We're going to start in 1 minute. Okay, I'd like to call this council meeting to order for Tuesday, September 22nd. And I'd like us to begin by observing a moment of silence so that council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Madam Clerk, not seeing any from my colleagues, I will declare on 6A3 correspondence. That letter is from my son, so I will declare conflict. We will go on next to the minutes. We have the minutes been circulated for the council meeting of September the 8th. Any questions? Not seeing any. Look for a motion from Anita, seconded by Donna. Any further discussion? All those in favor? The minutes are carried. I do not believe, Madam Clerk, we have any deputations. None. And were there any questions registered before 4:30? No, not seeing any. We will then move on to our municipal officers and staff reports. And the first one is on the draft communicator. Is somebody going to speak to this? Thank you. Go ahead.
So we're here at this time again with the council communicator. As council's aware, we typically publish this annual newsletter in July. But however, due to COVID, council did make the decision in early May that it would be best to hold off and send the information piece out to residents in the fall so that we can certainly provide them with information regarding, various initiatives that the council has requested in regards to economic recovery and COVID. So the piece will be mailed out late September, early October to all of our residents within the municipality and those that are property owners that reside outside of the municipality as well. I do want to take a moment to thank some of the other staff members. This is a collaborative effort, but I'd like to especially thank Megan McGowan, or LaRock, pardon me at this point, who really stepped up at a time when we needed her and took over a big chunk of this project. So I'd like to recognize her efforts. And just looking for council's feedback on the piece. And I would like to note, one more thing is typically we have a roads map that goes in this publication. The map has been there for 3 years in a row, and it does explore township versus county roads as an information piece to our residents. However, due to all the information that had to be published in regards to COVID, as well as our new Clear Bag program, there just wasn't enough room to include that. So we will advise residents through various formats that is on our website. The map is available on our website for printing, or if anyone was interested in purchasing, or sorry, pardon me, in having a piece mailed to them, we can certainly do so upon request. So other than that, I just wanted to receive council's feedback.
Thank you very much, and thanks to you and to all of the staff for the work that you've done on preparing this. I know that council had provided comments, and that many of those have been incorporated into, well, I'm going to call it the second draft. It's probably draft number 38. But
Yeah, that's right.
But as far as from what we're seeing, do any councillors want to add any other comments? Donna.
I just wanted to say that I appreciated how quickly staff have responded to suggestions that I made, and I think that other councillors made as well. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through you. I just want to congratulate you and everyone who worked on this. It's a really good product, and I think our residents will appreciate it when they receive it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, can we get a motion to receive? Yes, Deputy Mayor Stennis. Anita will second. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, colleagues. The next staff report is on the reopening of the township arenas and facilities, and I believe Mike is here. There he is, and I'll turn it over to Mike.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We've been working with the various user groups with Peterborough Public Health and through the many documents and changes that have been coming through the province and obviously with the public health to come up with a reopening plan for the arenas. It's a staged reopening, which largely due to their hockey operations and their sport. Provincial sport organizations, or PSOs, they have an involved or a staged reopening within them. So it really made sense to have a staged reopening for the arenas that took into consideration things like the number of people that can be there, proximity, use of change rooms, and things like that, the number of spectators. Quickly, most of you probably saw an announcement on Saturday. That affects private events, not hockey events, not sporting events, not anything that we staff or anything like that. Anything that is a private event is what that's referring to. 25 minutes ago, I got a clarification from Janet Dawson at Peterborough Public Health, just to make sure that I wasn't misspeaking tonight. Those are private events that are family gatherings or not controlled. So exercise classes still have limitations on them, but they're not the stricter limitations that were just put in place on Saturday. As long as it's a group that has a plan that we've approved, that has everything in place, is following all protocol, and we've gotten agreement with them. They are advising somebody like our leasing groups to check in on a group that might have such an agreement with them on a frequent basis to make sure that they're adhering to all of them. But all of the protocol have to be in place. A plan has to be presented. And one of the things with the minor sport organizations, OMHA, OWHA, OHF, are not even allowing any groups to start until they have received the information from the township or the place that they will be doing their hockey operations out of. So there really is a two-way check and balance to make sure that there is compliance with all of the existing protocol. The hockey operations is in stage 2, where we would like to begin, which, if you have been keeping up with what's happening in sports, in minor sports, it would be stage 3B in the OHF guideline from their page 8. I know that's probably more details than you need, but it's important in that they're still not allowing full hockey ops. There's no games. The number of 50 where that you're allowed to stay within for leagues or for bubbles in the sports world still have to be adhered to. So it's largely going to be practices, training, athletic development. There's no competitions at this point, and we don't know, frankly, especially with some of the changes in the last few days, when or if that will come back. It's made it a lot easier for the minor sports to book a lot of time. So they're booking much more time than they ever had, because they can't go and play against anybody. They can't go to anything outside of their regional health unit to go and play hockey. So it's or skate or anything like that. The traveling is not happening beyond our region, and then even within that, they can't exceed a group of 50 at any time, even if it is practices and things like that. The 50 people that they're with, including coaches, including trainers, including all of that, cannot be exceeded. So it's really put it's going to be very different looking. However, it's a heck of a lot safer. And the associations have been great with working with us in creating bubbles and large blocks of time. So typically, if I took the largest rental group of the Ennismore Minor Hockey, if they would normally take 30 hours a week, they're looking for 51 a week, which is a significant greater time. And because of the continued athletic development, they're carrying it into March. And normally, as those of you who've been on council for a number of terms know, their contract ice ends at the end of January. And once the playoff starts, we start losing teams out of it. So that will be quite a difference. We have a few adult groups and a couple who have asked to take a year off, who have been provided the opportunity to come back next year at no fault of their own because of health concerns. The facilities are also planned to be reopened, but they're being handled, instead of through a staged reopening plan, through Schedule A as part of their facility rental agreements that have a return to use plan, and also require them to make sure that they've got an entrance and exit plan, a sanitization plan, a contact trace plan. All of those things have to be in place before they can use the facility starting in October if it's approved. And the same would be true for our leaseholders. They've got a memorandum of understanding that they will have to abide by, and then they will have to make sure that the groups that they rent to also have a plan in place. I apologize, I have a typo in the report. It says Monday, October 4th. Those of you I'm sure know it's Sunday, October the 4th. So we would have a half day of rental in Lakefield if this is approved on Sunday, October the 4th, with the LDMHA and the chiefs who are allowed to practice like anybody else, and they hope to return to league play as of December 1st, but that's all speculative on what they're hoping to be able to do, or what they're told to prepare for by their association. We did have to recalculate all the new capacities based on 4 meters per person, and we've got that as part of what each group who looks after and or rents a facility will have to abide by. In order to try and meet the commitment that the council has made, we've looked at holding the rates from 2019, and it'll put us a little over the $10,000 that has been committed, instead of increasing by rate based on the CPI. We would look at holding the rates, and then that would be roughly $12,512.50 if all of the same amount of ice is rented. So we have to base it on something, and we actually will probably have a little bit more ice rented, but to minor, which puts out the minor rate. So there's, it's a pretty convoluted calculation to try and figure out exactly what the final number would be, but we know that the hours of ice will be increasing because we won't be using teams in January, February, when it's very hard to rebook and impossible for them to stay in if they're not in playoffs.
Thank you, Mike. Donna?
Yes, through you to Mike. Nice to see you again. I know that the Ennismore Curling Club is a slightly different arrangement. I think we own it and they lease it from us. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. And I'm not sure if you're going to ask this question, but I might as well put it out there. Their executive decided last week that they will not start until January 1st at the earliest. They wrote up 5 scenarios of reopening and closing, opening late, and all of them lose money, but that's the one scenario that loses the least amount of money. And without as much snowbird traveling, they hope to hold on to members that they would normally lose for January, February, March. So on December 1st, on or about December 1st, they're going to decide if January they will start for a half season.
Okay, thank you. And I have another. Now, I know this isn't recreation, but either you or the other staffs may be able to answer that. What about our seniors that rent from us? Are they going to be allowed to open for business or for socialization?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the plan is that all leased facilities would be given the opportunity to open as long as they follow the guidelines, as long as they can give us the plan that they've got in place. Nobody will be forced to if they're not comfortable through their executive or through their operating boards, but they would be given the opportunity, and we would reach out to them to make sure that they've met everything and that they are comfortable with getting started. The only restrictions that are really strict that fall into that category are absolutely no playing of cards and no buffets or shared food in any way, shape, or form. So those are a couple of the big pieces of what they do. Things like the pool at Ennismore, they were allowed to do, but have to use their own equipment, those sorts of things. But those would be the two big ones. change. But yes, all of them, including the Ennismore Optimists, the Lions, would be included in that October 5th timeframe.
Thank you very much.
Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report and also your verbal report. A lot of good information there. I know it's probably been a real challenge to try to come up with good protocols, but it sounds like you've got really good, strong protocols in place. And I'm sure that for the past 6 months, you know, kids especially haven't been able to get out and do a lot of the activities. So I'm sure that minor hockey is happy that you've put together this plan and that we're opening our facilities. And because kids really, I think, have struggled, you know, and the mental health issues and stuff. So I just want to congratulate you on an excellent report and all the background information that you've done.
Thank you. We've had incredible support from the Peterborough Public Health, from staff, and working with the groups. They're just as keen to get back into some state of normalcy as well. But you're very welcome.
Well, also like to extend my appreciation. The reality is, and I'm going to make an appeal that I know people are already doing, but for everybody to be patient as we go through this process. There are actually 4 areas that people have to abide by. We've got a series of provincial orders that we have to abide by. We have a series of public health guidelines that have to be administered. All of the governing bodies for minor sports particularly have their own set of rules that have to be adhered to. And then we have our venue-specific rules that all have to be adhered to. It's a really complex process, but it's absolutely necessary in order to keep everybody safe. So I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done and all of your folks that are working with you to make this happen, and ask for everybody's patience as we reopen in a safe and responsible manner. So thank you very much. And I need a motion to approve that from Anita, and seconded by Donna. All those in favor, carried. Thank you. We'll now go on to Lane for a report on our financial situation arising out of COVID. And I'm assuming we'll hear Lane's voice and come over the speakers.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a report before council tonight. The report includes 2 components. One is an interim update to council as requested back in July. And the second component is based on that interim report, a recommendation to consider additional provincial funding. So I'll take a moment and just go through a couple of points about the report, and then would welcome any feedback and questions. So as noted several times throughout the report, it is an interim report in that we're continuing to refine the numbers. The reports back to the province actually will need to be updated to September the 30th month end. We are double checking our rationale as well to ensure that it stands up to scrutiny, because we expect that when we make application, we will need to go through and justify all the numbers that are in that template, which we've not yet received, but we anticipate receiving shortly. As mentioned in this report to council, it's an interim, so definitely when we get a little bit farther along, we'll also provide an updated report to council at that juncture as well. And in doing the work for this report to council, we are positioning our kind of our back end work on this to not have to be duplicated again. So we're trying to get this ready for the application when we go forward. In considering the report and the expenses to date, as council can see, we look like we're over $700,000. The cost is based on addressing operating pressures on local needs. And I've been in discussion with municipal affairs several times, and they've assured me that the funding envelope that's put together, the whole program, is definitely to address local needs in each community. We'll be looking at things differently. And that's why some of the phrasing in their program, things like operating pressures, that phrase is a new term that we typically wouldn't see in a lot of provincial documents, but it definitely is meant to be all-encompassing and broad-based. So we're just putting together a fulsome package when we take it forward, and looking at all of the local needs that we've taken into account. As council is aware, the first round of funding from the province would be a grant of almost $528,000. That will definitely go a long way to helping us address the needs of the community. But as I mentioned, there's still a number of other expenses, lost revenues that we need to compile and put forward, which will be in excess of that number. In taking our application forward, there will be a requirement by the municipality to take a look at our own finances and our wherewithal to be able to pay with respect to reserves and cost saving measures. And that's why council will see in the report as well that we have included general sections where we have had marginal savings in terms of staff layoffs, not only initial but ongoing staff layoffs, and some of our deferred levy payments, and some of our premium savings, which our healthcare provider has provided to us. So they all need to go in together in our funding package. At this point, I'll maybe just leave that and see if council has any detailed questions. So with those comments, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Lane. Questions? Yes, Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was with regards to the deferred levy payments to the school boards and to the county. So those are just deferred, or do we actually have to pay them at some point?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The province brought in regulations to allow us to defer payments on the school boards until the end of the year. So we basically had some time for cash flow purposes for the June payment and the September payment, but they are definitely just deferred. So those payments are collected but from our ratepayers, and so we need to remit that to the school boards, but we have approximately 6 months to help in our cash flow. With respect to the county levy, the county approved a recommendation from the county treasurer that would allow us to pay a proportionate share of taxes that we collected throughout the year. And as a result, we didn't need to meet that strict levy payment deadline that was established, but could pay a proportionate share. And as an example, the July payment that we made was about $800,000 less than what it would have been if we had to pay the levy amount. So all of those deferred payments definitely provided us with some flexibility in cash flow, and also allowed us to pay our local contractors and local businesses as soon as we could and get that money out into the community.
Thank you. Other questions? Not seeing any. First of all, thank you, Lane, for a very comprehensive report. In the recommendation, you're asking us to authorize you to make application for phase 2. If I understand you correctly, the amount that you asked for may be somewhat different as we accumulate additional costs. So this is the minimum amount, but it is likely going to be more as we proceed down the road and you experience those additional costs, correct?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The interim report was provided to council not only to satisfy council direction, but also to provide council with some assurance that we would need to make application. And definitely from now through until the application point, we'll continue to compile data, update our rationale. And I wanted to ensure that we had the application approval in place. And then I'll definitely report back to council at a future council meeting with updated figures.
Thank you very much. So we need a motion to receive and a motion to authorize us to apply. Deputy Mayor Senes, Donna, Councillor Ballantyne, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Lane. We'll now go to the consent agenda, which I am going to, we'll go to the consent agenda, which I'm going to ask to be split. Just give me a second. so that item six, um, thank you, 6A3 be removed and dealt with separately. Leaving that one aside, are there any other items that that anybody wants to pull? Anita?
I'm not sure what the number is. It's a Peterborough County report moving forward, so I guess that's 7A1, moving forward report. Peterborough County. Causeway
Oh,
concerns.
okay, 7A1. Okay, 7A1, yeah. We have 7A1. Anybody else want to pull anything else? Donna, sorry.
Number 3, and then I had number 6. I have to double check it under correspondence. Sure why I wrote that down.
Okay.
You guys check.
Okay, well, you're doing that. We'll just go to the ones that that Anita. So we're going to leave 6A3 separate because that we're dealing with that separately. So we'll go first to 5C.
Okay, that was me.
Yeah.
And it was talking about, from the Public Works, putting no parking signs on part of East Communication Road. And during the latter part of the summer, we heard about problems on Garthorne by the marinas. And I know that I've been checking since then, and there's hardly any cars there now, but it's a different season. So I was wondering if we could just kind of put it on the record that we would check Garthorne next summer or spring to see if there's congestion in that area of the road.
Through the CAO, I assume that we'll pass that on to Public Works.
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Okay, let us do next 7A1, which I believe was Anita's. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's an excellent report. It regards a number of different locations where littering and fishing and just general disrespect is happening at a lot of these different locations, the Causeway, the Kelly Boulevard. Anyway, so my point is, and I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere in this report, that what they're recommending is that a warning would be given first, and then if there was no compliance, that a fine would actually be levied. I'd suggest that, you know, there's really good signage that there's people should not be given just a warning, that it's like the left turn at the bottom of the bridge in Lakefield. There's good signage and people are still turning left and then they complain because they get a ticket. But I think so long as the signage is very clear and distinct and well positioned, that it should not be a situation of giving them a warning. I think that need to be ticketed first time out, because it's our people that are Guard, I think, that is doing some of the enforcement, or the OPP. So anyway, that's just my suggestion, that, you know, when it comes to, especially at the Causeway, is ticket without a warning first.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Through you, I just wanted to speak to that issue. Both the mayor and I received some pictures today from our acting CAO at the county, and there has been some fencing put up, signage is put up, and it was patrolled on the weekend, and there was no fishing under the bridge. So it's working, yes. And the OPP ticket, Guard moves them along. So that's the difference. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarification. So just before we get to the one that Donna wants to deal with, I had one, which I should have mentioned, 7.6, which is the Technical Advisory Committee meeting minutes. This is for the review of our official plan. And so I had some questions. I don't necessarily expect those to get answered right now, but if somebody would want to come back. So I'm trying to understand what a natural core area designation within a settlement area is. So that would be one. The second would be what impact the proposed natural heritage system will have on our settlement areas. We've always tended to talk about that outside of settlement areas. And then finally, the impact on lot creation because of the natural heritage system. Those are pretty big questions. So if the planning folks want to come back and provide a report on that, but I know these are issues of interest to council, and we've put that forward. So my suggestion, I'm looking at the CAO, would be quite happy if planning were to come back with a bit of a report on those.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I'm going to ask is for council to vote on all of the consent items excepting 6A3. So can I have a mover for that? That is Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor, that's carried. So I am going to excuse myself while you have your conversation about the other item, and I will turn the chair over to the deputy mayor.
Thank you very much. And I understand that Donna, you pulled that item.
Yes, number 3 and number 6 under correspondence.
Oh, we didn't deal with number 6. Okay, well, we'll deal with number 3 because we've already passed number 6.
Did we?
Yeah. No, did we have a motion for the? Yeah, we did. So we passed it.
Too late?
Maybe we'll speak to it.
Okay.
Okay, talk
Okay.
about 3.
Number 3 is a letter in response to the letter that we asked to be sent to MP Miriam Monsef at our last council meeting. And the response that came back was signed by Peter Mitchell. I'm not sure what his title is, but works on her staff. And I took exception to that because we specifically sent the letter to MP Monsef, and I would like to ask if the CAO would make a call to the office and ask that she respond directly, because we don't really even know if she's seen the letter. We can assume that she has, but it was a letter directed to her and asking for some specific information on promises that she's made. And the response we got back was very vague. So
what are you asking for?
I'm asking if our CAO would call the office and ask for a direct response from MP Monsef.
You seconding that, Anita? All right, so Janice,
If I can just speak to that, I can certainly call the office to ensure that Miriam did receive the letter. I think I can't direct Miriam who will respond to our requests. It's similar to our operation. So there's lots of correspondence that comes into mayor and council, and oftentimes people receive a response from a staff member. So that really isn't unusual. If your concern is whether or not she actually saw the correspondence, I can place a call to make sure she was aware of the correspondence.
That's my main concern.
All right. Donna?
Can we talk about number 6?
Well, Andy should really be back for that because he's not, he doesn't have a conflict with that. It was 6, about cannabis.
6, and I think it's under correspondence too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, while you're making your way back to your chair, we missed one of the ones that Donna wanted to pull. I know we've already voted on it, but she would like to speak on it regardless. So I'll turn the chair back to you. Number 6 of the correspondence.
So that would be Municipality of Tweed one?
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Donna, sorry.
Okay. There's a long dissertation there, but the last 2 points, that Health Canada withhold licensing until the potential license holder can provide evidence of acceptable zoning of the intended property in question, and that license locations be disclosed in advance to the municipalities hosting the license locations. We've already had one property in Ennismore that was fairly advanced in the production, and it was found that the license held was not for that property at all. So I would like to support this motion from the municipality of Tweed.
Okay. All those in favor? Sorry. Okay, we have no petitions. We have portfolio updates. I'll start with Sherry.
Thank you through you. Chemong, excuse me, Chemong Home Hardware Building Center on Chemong Road has won the Walter J. Hatchborn National Award for Store of the Year. That's quite impressive. It's for the whole of Canada, and I believe that we should be sending a letter of congratulations from the mayor and council to the owners of that business. Some Youngs Point businesses are working on CIP applications to have their parking lots paved while our township work is being completed. Business reopening program has 113 businesses participating. 31 businesses need to submit their claims by September 30th. Community Futures will be giving our council an update on the business reopening program at our October 13th council meeting. Celtic Connection, Mary McGillis is moving to an online model. Because of that, 25 Queen Street in Lakefield is available for lease. And a public meeting for our proposed changes to the CIP program is also on October the 13th, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Locke.
Just the only thing that Municipal Heritage Committee, we're going to be meeting via Zoom in October, so that's kind of exciting. It'll be good to see everybody again, even if it is online.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ballantyne.
Yes, thank you. This is related to the Wild Rice Communication Group, and on September the 9th from 2 p.m. to 5:30, Mayor Mitchell and myself and several other concerned people in the community were allowed to sit in on a conference call where there were some of the key stakeholders from the community present, as well as members from Parks Canada. And the basic outcome of that meeting, which is encouraging, is that Parks Canada is going to move forward with the Treaty 20 First Nations on the grounds that we have to look at safety when people are traversing through and around the rice fields because of visibility, which is difficult. Also, boats are easily trapped, swimmers are easily trapped in that rice. And so it's a huge safety concern. So that's how they're going to try and proceed with some kind of zoning for areas where there will be rice, and it would be on maps. So that would be a great help. Regarding the link, Angela isn't here, but I haven't heard if the province has extended that. It has? Oh.
I'm here, Donna. Donna, I'm here.
Oh, you're there.
Yep.
Barely. I was just wondering, have we heard yet if the time for the grant has been extended? For the
No, sorry. No, we haven't heard anything from the ministry yet.
Okay, thank you. And the Police Services Board has not had any new meetings since my last report. The Library Board, we've had a fair bit of action. We've established action items for our strategic plan. We had another meeting this afternoon, and I can't even remember what we decided. Seems to be a long day of meetings. If it was, maybe the mayor can help me, was there anything major? I guess that's the Safe Start program, and they're kind of doing more on hold, basically.
Yeah, it was, they dealt with their financial situation at the library. Also, the report back on the strategic plan, right? So that
Yeah.
was very positive.
And I just wanted to mention that I am also on the Recreation Committee. We have not reconvened our meetings yet, but we have had a fulsome report from our manager of Recreation Services on how things are going to move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. We continue to have weekly meetings, or generally weekly meetings, with both the MP and the MPP to discuss a series of issues. And in fact, one of those meetings will be commencing very shortly. And it's very much appreciated that both our MPP and our MP do meet regularly with our mayors. Last week, the province made an announcement, $355,400 to our community dental clinic at Peterborough Public Health. So we're very appreciative of that. And then the other thing I would highlight in terms of intergovernmental, and Mike already mentioned it, and that is the change in rules regarding assemblies in an unorganized format. So that's important to note. And so that is all that I had to report. We will then go on to other new and unfinished business. Is there any items anybody would like to raise? Not seeing any. We have two bylaws, the authorized bylaw agreement for the Orca RMO and the parking bylaw on East Communication Road. Moved by Anita, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor? I need a confirming bylaw by Donna, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor? And we need an adjournment motion by Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, colleagues.